Hey everyone, thanks for joining. This is Ben with Curate, and you are now in the state of the wedding and event industry amidst COVID. Thank you for joining. We understand that everything is happening right now. We understand that everyone's in kind of a different spot. So what we wanted to do is bring different industry experts into this platform to say, hey, this is what we're seeing in our industry. This is what we're seeing within kind of our segment. This is what's happening with our customers, and really give that kind of comprehensive view at, hey, everyone's a little bit different, but this is how we're all navigating it differently. And this is really, at the end of the day, this is what's happened in the last 4 weeks. This is kind of the state of the industry, which is really great to see, because I think there are a lot of great resources out there, but sometimes it's good to see, hey, where are we at from a pulse check and where are we at for the overall health of the industry. So we're really excited to have our guests. I'm going to introduce all the different guests. Actually, I'll let them introduce themselves, and then we'll jump into some questions. The first little bit will be based on some questions that we received from the registrants. So thank you for putting those in there. And then as you have questions during this chat with us, go ahead and put them in the chats. There's a section to put in the chat. Raise your hand, ask a question. We're going to compile those questions and do it at the end. So with that being said, go ahead, everybody, introduce yourself on the panel. And while you are introducing yourself, everyone that's attending, go ahead and say hi in the chat. Tell us where you're calling in from. I'm Ben with Curate out of St. Louis, Missouri, and we'll go to Natalie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Natalie Frank. I am the head of community at HoneyBook and co-founder of the Rising Tide Society.
Awesome. Robin?
Robin Selden with Selden Catering. I'm also on the executive committee for the International Caterers Association. We are in Stamford, Connecticut and New York City, and I'm delighted to be here.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Hi, Jeffrey Selden, also with Selden Catering, and I am the current president of the International Caterers Association and managing partner at our company, Selden Catering.
Awesome. Sarah?
Hi, I'm Sarah Campbell with Intrigue Designs and Intrigue Teaches. And what do I do?
Besides everything.
Besides everything. I am a florist and I manage the Intrigue Teaches community.
Awesome. Great. And Stephen.
Hi, everyone. My name is Steve Sanchez. I am in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and I work for the JDK Group. We're a catering, event, and design production company. I'm also the secretary of the International Caterers Association and a member of the Leading Caterers of America.
Awesome. And I love how diverse this community is, too, because we have a little bit from LCA, ICA, doing the catering portion. We have Sarah in here with florist, and then also, Steve, you help with some floral with JDK too. So it's great to see kind of a mix of everything. And of course, Natalie with HoneyBook and the education across all aspects. So really excited to be covering as much as we can during this. And with that being said, see some people coming in different parts of the world from everywhere. I'm really excited. Thank you everyone for joining. Well, with that being said, let's go into some questions that we received. And then of course, ask questions as they come in too. And then we'll hit those at the end as well. So let's start with company status. So everyone's in a little bit different status. I'll start with Natalie on this one because HoneyBook is just kind of overall looking at multiple companies. But Natalie, talk about how HoneyBook's doing, how kind of the Rising Tide education portion is doing, and how your customers are being impacted right now.
Yeah, it's a great question. So immediately, I forget the exact date, it might have been March 15th, but it was the date when the government basically came out and said, as we all know, events are now kind of on notice, and we're going to be federally suggesting that there is no gatherings larger than 10 people. From that moment on, we at HoneyBook and Rising Tide kind of took an immediate pause on all of our standard day-to-day, and immediately, like many of us, and I think Ben, you guys did the exact same thing, pivoted into serving and supporting and protecting the small business owners that are part of our community. And so from our company level, that was like an immediate response, because what started to unfold after that, as we saw our members and our community members being impacted severely from a revenue perspective, events being canceled, postponed, which was our hope, postpone and reschedule, not cancel, but a little bit of a mix of both. These wedding professionals that were getting ready for a busy season, a busy spring and summer, some of the best seasons that they were anticipating in the history of their business, completely sort of disintegrating and potentially being pushed either to the fall, later summer, and or even we've heard some 2021. And so, in terms of our customers and how they're being impacted, I think it's a mix of revenue. We're looking at like a shift in cash flow and revenue Also, really wanting to access federal relief and what's being made available through the Paycheck Protection Program, SBA loans and grants, and other types of grant relief, whether that is federal or otherwise. So sort of on the financial side. Also concerns around employees, concerns around contractors, how to navigate that, and to really serve their employees well, their teams well in this hard time. And then, we were joking on this before we jumped on, where we said, some of us have kids that are going to be running through the background of this call, pets jumping on top of us. Like, this new reality, I think on a personal level too, is impacting our community members physically, mentally, from a family perspective. So for us, and I think, all of us who are on this call, our hope is to serve and support, to do whatever we have to do to protect small business, to save small business, and to just equip people with whatever tools they need in order to weather this storm.
No, I love that. And I love the aspect of weathering the storm. We're going to be doing coming up probably the next couple of weeks is preparing for that bounce back and weathering that storm and what that actually looks like to look ahead. But, we're all in the boat. We're all in the storm right now. It's all about looking forward and saying, hey, where are we going and how do we get there as well? So as far as company and customers being impacted right now, for the rest of the panel, how are customers really feeling it right now? What are you seeing to your customers as well? And we have everyone muted. So Sarah, go ahead with your thoughts on that. And you're still muted.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
So being in the floral world, I feel like I don't really see what's happening with all the rest of the sea and all the rest of the storm out there. I really have my focus very, very laser pointed in the floral world. And I started seeing the biggest challenges, less so with the events and more so with the floral supply chain and the floral farms. And there's a big part of the wedding industry, the event industry, that really no one thinks about or talks about. And not that it's a bad thing, but it's just one of those cogs that just kind of keeps working for us. Those farmers are going to continue to grow their tulips. They're going to continue to grow their roses. And now there's nowhere for them to go. So I think, as much as on kind of a surface level, I've been trying to be as supportive, encouraging to the floral community. I've also been talking to some of the farms and the wholesalers and suppliers about what we're going to be able to do to help revitalize this. What's happened in the floral world is, I feel, tragic. It's unlike anything else. With so many other parts of the industry, food is still going to go out there, and it's maybe not going to be at the restaurants, but it's going to be at the grocery stores, right? But there are some flowers at the grocery stores, but other than that, it's just, I don't know if I've got off topic, but my biggest concern recently has been, how do we restart this love for flowers once we're all able to move about and have these events again?
Yeah, I think that's great. And it's how are you being impacted? How are your customers being impacted? But it's also their end customer, the client, being impacted. And I think that's a great point, that everyone's going to be impacted throughout the whole supply chain. It's not just this micro view. It's really the gamut, it's the macro view of hey, from a supply chain and logistics, how does this impact everyone? Robin, did you want to add to that as well?
I think from the catering perspective, I think everyone on this call, we're magic makers, right? We create these incredible memories for our clients. And so I will never forget flying home on a red eye from CaterSource. Steve and Jeffrey and I were there. We were teaching with the ICA, also with the leading caterers of America. And, we're on this plane, and I'm saying to Jeffrey, we're supposed to be sleeping right now, but we need to think of how we're going to pivot our business and turn this around so that we can continue to create memories that are good memories during a time that's so uncertain, which is what we did. And I'm really happy that, listen, I'm not going to tell you we're woo, everything's great, but under the circumstances, we are providing meals to families, without contact. They're getting incredible, wonderful meals that are catered, a little different than when you would get from a restaurant. And, they're frightened to go to the grocery stores. They're frightened by who the Uber driver is that's going to show up at their door. You know, they know that we understand food safety and that we're being really thoughtful about it. And so it's worked really well for us. I mean, we delivered 70 Passover meals from Seder plates to nuts, you know, literally, you know, for our clients. And so they've supported us and kept us here for 40 years. And so we now need to be there for them and provide them with a smile and something delicious that's a great memory, you know, under these circumstances.
Yeah, I love that. I love that creating an experience is not stopping just because we can't do events anymore, big weddings anymore. Like, we're still in our blood. It still pumps that we are still in the experience industry and still giving something to the people. And I think really providing that hope during such a questioning time, I think is super important. And I love that, you know, our frontline people are helping out. You know, people in the hospitals are in the thick of it. You know, they're going through so much, but also we as the event industry is saying, hey, we want to make sure we do that as well. And we talked about special signs for next person that wanted to talk. That's Jeffrey's sign. So Jeffrey, go ahead and add to that with your special sign.
Okay, I didn't threaten you. I just said I would do it. In speaking to the front lines, we've also been able to pivot in our business. In addition to doing the home deliveries, we have worked with an organization called Food for the Front Lines, where we have, there's a private GoFundMe page where people are putting in donations, and we've been delivering meals to hospitals locally in Connecticut, Fairfield County area. So it's been really great. It just feels good to be able to give back and make the meals extra special and put some great notes and some fun surprises and treats and make it extra special for those people who are just on isolation floors, or, you know, really the nurses and doctors who are in there who are barely even getting a break. And it's been great. And they, Food for the Front Lines, have raised over, I think, $70,000 at this point, and done thousands of meals. So it's been really, really a nice change up in addition to the obvious everyday deliveries that we've been doing.
I love that. I love Food for the Front Lines. So I think that's it's a mouthful. Say it 5 times fast. It's a little bit tougher, but I really love that. I love that people are, you know, looking at ways that they can, instead of, you know, I understand mourning and being at home and understanding and trying to take it all in, but I love also getting back out there and saying, hey, what can we do if we can do anything at all? Steve, did you want to add anything to that?
Sure. I mean, I think Sarah and Robin kind of hit it on the nail on the head with pivot. I feel like we have to adapt to just pivot to what our customers need and work with how we can help people. I mean, I think we, you know, happen to be in an industry that constantly is tailored towards relationships and people. And I think that's the beauty of our business, is that we can adapt because we're always worried and focused on the well-being of our customers. So I think for our business, you know, it's adapting to a new normal. You know, I think Natalie said the Zoom meetings, how do we do online venue tours? How do we do online consultations? You know, I think, you know, as tough and difficult as it is, it's also helping us embrace technology to a degree that, you know, we always said we wanted to do, but, you know, now we're forced to do. So it's you know, there's those little tidbits of good things that are popping out of this. I mean, as far as not having the events, of course, we're cancellations and postponements, but I think the more that we do this, the more that we'll find new opportunities. So.
That's great. Sarah, did you want to add?
Yeah, I just want to add on that. Steve, you said something that was really, really important. It's, you know, so many of us have avoided technology. And I know in the flower world in particular, like, florists are not, I love my florist friends, but we are not the most technically savvy individuals. So the fact that this is forcing all of us to really get tech savvy and figure out these more modern ways of doing business, I think this is a very positive thing that's coming out of being in this quarantine. I know there aren't a ton of positives, but that's definitely a strong one.
I love that. I love the silver lining there too. And we were talking a little bit before we hopped on about, you know, finding the little things that are the positives and really holding onto those, and staying grounded by being so positive in the things that you can be positive about and really just being involved. Kind of to pivot a little bit, there's a lot of education on there, a lot of things that people are putting out there that have been incredibly resourceful. We've cited several people that are doing great things, whether it's ICA, HoneyBook as well. Sarah has a great workshop or a COVID resource pack too. For the panel specifically, you all are leading businesses. You're doing incredible things. You're doing great things. Where do you go, or where do you recommend going to find like these initiatives that are out there, the funding programs or the organizations that are putting out information? Like, where do you go as kind of your central source of information to find more current updates about what's happening and what you can do to run your business better through this process. Sarah.
I got to give a shout out to Natalie at Rising Tide, because it wasn't until I think it was last night in their Facebook group that she put out a poll about, who had applied for these particular forgivable loans. And I said, I wish I could have applied. I don't qualify. And it was a very casual statement. And then there was just this flood of resources and information. So all this morning, that's what I was working on, is making sure I got that loan application in. And Rising Tide, since the launch of Rising Tide, that has continued to be one of my kind of go-to resources for just kind of the pulse of what's happening in the creative industry.
Sarah, thank you. You're so kind, and you've always been such a big cheerleader and supporter. I think the best resource, I think everyone can hopefully agree with this, is one another. We are one another's best resource. All of the bigger brands, the curates, the HoneyBooks, like the communities like Rising Tide, they just serve as a facilitator. That's what we're doing. We're stepping in as a facilitator and sourcing this knowledge and sourcing these experts and these resources in order to provide to the community. But what Sarah's referencing, there's a post in our community. If you go to Facebook, type in Rising Tide Society. We've got 77,000 small business owners, and a lot of them are wedding and events professionals in there. There's a poll that has over 600 people now that have contributed, talking about their experience applying for these programs, these financial resources in particular. And so I think it just goes back to creating these spaces where we can share our experiences, and through that learn, okay, wait, I didn't think I was eligible for that, but maybe I am. And, someone chiming in and saying, here's a screenshot of this one part of the document, which by the way was like 500, 600 pages long. So I know none of us read through the whole thing. And so like the legislative document. So, having that access and those resources, thank you, Holly, for sharing that to one another, I think is so critical. Spaces like this where we can connect and share. And look, I did a webinar last week on just the financial side. Next week, I'm doing another one on PPP. These regulations were passed so quickly that even the language itself in some of these legislative documents are very vague. And there are questions being raised that don't have answers, because frankly, they just rolled it out, they just released it. So a lot of us are doing our best to gather legal experts, financial experts, people who have background in policy, like specifically talking about legislation and public policy to handle this. But I think the key is going to be all of us coming together, all of us, gathering around amazing brands like Curate, HoneyBook, others, Rising Tide, and just sharing knowledge. When we get access to it, not holding it, but making it as available as possible so that people can really benefit, because we've got to protect small business.
I love that. I saw Robin had something to add too.
Yeah, Jeffrey does too. I mean, just today alone, we had a Zoom call with over 20 caterers from the New York City area, just New York. And everyone from great performances, they were all principals, to us, to, Creative Edge, you name it. And we just went on there, full transparency. What are you guys doing? How are you doing it? Let's come together as a community. Let's band together and try to do things and put out the same messaging to our clients, so that we're all together being transparent and sharing that. And then it was just also such a great way to be able to say, what are you guys doing that we're not doing that could help us, or whatever. And I think we all, Jeffrey, would you agree, we learned so much from each other?
Yeah, nobody was guarded, which was really nice about it. Everybody felt really comfortable and open to talk about what they're doing, what they're losing, what they're missing out on. I know you mentioned before, Ben, just the whole ICA too. We've been running 2 to 3 webinars a week. That's everything from the catering side to the culinary side. A lot of wedding industry folks out there. I'm also on the New York chapter in the National Board of WIPA, which is the Wedding Industry Professionals Association. We've also been running about 2 webinars a week. And you don't always have to be members. At this point, basically, a lot of these organizations are relaxing the have to be a member moment and letting you in. So if you go to these websites, they're providing education, and it's there and it's out there and it's free. So you don't even have to be a member. I think it's just more goodwill at this point.
I love that. And I love the goodwill aspect and really connecting with everyone else. You know, it really is community over competition. I think that's something Natalie put in there too. And I've seen that on hers. And I've seen several people that say that. And it's really like, yeah, you may have been competitors 6 months ago in the catering aspect, but today you're on the front line together and you're working through that. You can go your separate ways later, but I think it's super important to join together with people and to find resources. Another piece of finding resources is always go back to resources and continue to see, because as Natalie kind of mentioned, things are always changing. They were released so quickly. I think today I got a message yesterday and I sent it to Natalie. You can speak on this, Natalie, or we can talk about it later, but there are things that have changed for now solopreneurs, people that are just independent business owners, compared to what it was a couple, I guess it was up to this point, like you had to have a small business with a couple employees to apply for a certain loan. And now you can actually do it yourself if you're just a solopreneur by yourself. So always continue to look back at those pieces and make sure that you are staying current with those, instead of saying, you know what, I already spent a week doing that. I've done all my things. I'm done. I'm washing my hands. I'm moving forward. Keep looking in that, because you don't want to miss out on anything, especially all the information that's out there. Anyone else want to add anything to that aspect of continuing to educate and looking for the things that are out there to help grow? Perfect. All right. A couple things now. We've seen people that are saying, you know what, this is my bread and butter. This is what I've done in the past. Robin and Jeffrey, you've talked a little bit about this with the catering aspect of, you know, pivoting kind of your business model. Not necessarily for revenue, but for revenue standpoint, people are probably joining today and saying, you know what, like this was our source of revenue. Like, what do we even do to have revenue right now? I've seen some interesting different ways that people are kind of pivoting their business model to kind of still generate revenue to make sure they're putting food on the table during this time. What creative ways have you all seen your customers still generating revenue, even though it may be a little bit different than the bread and butter that they've done up to this point in their businesses? Natalie, if you want to start that off.
Sure. The biggest thing that I've seen is what we're calling productizing your service. Oh gosh, our dog just got very, very alert all of a sudden. But that's basically thinking about your service in terms of how can you productize it. So we've seen things like photographers teaching, you know, DIY photography classes to the newly homeschooled kids using mom's iPhone, and like doing scavenger hunts around the house and actually charging for that hour-long lesson for the kids. I've seen florists doing floral crown DIY kits and boxing up and shipping out whatever remaining florals they do have. You know, to the teleconsults, telecoaching for other creatives in the space, teaching what you know. I've seen a lot of leveraging affiliates. On the HoneyBook side, a lot of our HoneyBook educators are ramping up their content, sharing about the platform and generating revenue. So we're just seeing people thinking creatively about, you know, how do I productize maybe what I've already been doing? How do I teach what I know? How do I leverage affiliate marketing, but getting crafty and getting creative? And, you know, the one thing I want to like highlight what Stephen said early on, because I think this is important. All of these things are forcing us to adopt technology in new ways and to look at what we do through a new lens. And I actually see that being potentially a huge benefit to come out of this experience, because the businesses that come out of this on the other side that went in with one revenue stream and maybe come out with two or come out with three will never be subjected to what's occurring right now ever again. They will forever have built more of a bulletproof business model where they have these different revenue streams that can be turned on, turned off. They've also been able to stretch their skills. You know, there's so much resiliency that could be built through just experimenting and trying different things. So I've seen a lot of creative, you know, kind of ideation happening within our members and our community. And I would just encourage it. I would encourage everyone, you know, to really try to think about maybe what is one way, if needed, that you can stretch or adapt or expand or leverage technology in a new way.
I love that. I love having those different things that you can do in your business that you can continue doing moving forward. So it's kind of like the old adage of one step back, two steps forward. It's, you know, this is just where we're at right now, and we're going to have to embrace that. But while we're embracing, let's go ahead and put ourselves in a better position than we even were before all this hit. Sarah, did you want to add some?
Yes, Natalie just nailed that. Exactly what I'm seeing within the floral world is, you know, florists, for the most part, many of them are that single revenue stream, and the creativity is still there. They started their businesses usually out of nothing, so they've done this already, and now they're just looking at another way to do something creative to add revenue. I've seen designers that are doing, you know, sketches of their clients' bouquets and shipping those out. They're doing fine art paintings. They're doing dried bouquets that they can ship anywhere. So it's really been I've seen like a huge surge in these new creative outlets where they can still make something and still provide to their clients.
I think that's great. All right, from the catering side, any thoughts about like what people are doing a little bit differently for revenue standpoint, Jeffrey, or actually Stephen, if you want to start that off, and then we'll go to Jeffrey right after.
Sure. Natalie, I think you said it so well. I mean, diversifying your business and pivoting, I think, you know, we already have a diversified business in the event industry, but I think one of the things that I've been saying to our team, and, you know, we obviously had a smaller team right now and really want this to change so we can get everybody back, but I'm like, throw it at the wall, like give it a shot. Like what do we have to lose right now? And I think that's where that idea creation and, you know, you're seeing like, we're not a drop-off caterer, and now we are trying family meal, and had just had a very successful, I was actually just in the kitchen with them. We just had a very successful Easter weekend that we're going to be having food deliveries. And, you know, we're working on like these interactive kits, food kits for our people and their families, because everybody's stuck at home. And you know, do you really want to go to the grocery store and try to find all these things to make, you know, an ice cream sundae bar or different activities? So even like the technology, again, like you said, like we're doing an Instagram live series, and it's something that has been on our docket for like probably 6 months. And now like next week we are doing it. So I think, you know, just throw it at the wall and see how it works, and just who knows, like you said, what's going to come of this. So really, really, really great points.
Also, I would pay any of the caterers listening for a cooking class. Like, I cannot cook. This is like an example. Y'all have a genius skill. Everyone listening to this has a superpower. There is something like Sarah mentioned this, you know, like every single person who's in this industry, first of all, I'm just gonna say it, you're a badass for going into business, period. But you also have a superpower. You have some kind of creative genius. So I would hire anyone. I would make an online class, teach your signature dish, like share that knowledge and productize it. You may even, like Stephen's alluding to, create a stream of revenue or potentially an avenue in your business that maybe you never thought was possible, or you held out on for one reason or another, that could, I dare to say this, could one day even become a larger revenue stream than what you were doing prior to COVID. Like, there is a world where you could discover something that's been there all along if you're willing to be open to it. So, and that really does go. If anyone has really cool cooking classes that they're doing or IG lives, I'll either pay for it or watch it. Just send it my way.
Natalie, what do you want to learn?
Everything. Just teach like I'm a kindergartner. I know nothing. I'm like the worst cook in the kitchen of all time. I
make mean peanut butter cookies. I can show you. One thing, some other things that we've been doing, which has been interesting with some of our clients, we have on Monday, this coming week, we have a virtual birthday party that we're doing. We have a client of ours whose daughter's turning 21, and they decided to do a dinner delivered to their house, a dinner delivered to a friend's house, and it's 6 people at each home. We're doing all hors d'oeuvres, food, bar, pre-batch cocktails. We're sending it out with heating instructions. And then we also organize a virtual karaoke DJ, one of our entertainment companies who pulled this together, and they're doing entertainment where they're going to come and he's going to moderate a karaoke concept online so that each house is responsible for their own karaoke. So that should be fun. And then one of Robin's friends and client, you want to tell about Make-A-Wish?
Yeah, so am I muted? No, I'm off. So I'm really involved with Make-A-Wish Foundation. I have my own wish kid that I have worked with and taught to cook. And their gala is April 25th, I think it is, or whatever the Saturday is, not this one, but the next one. And they're going, they were saying to me, how are we going to do this? We still need to raise this money. And they said, would you help us if we decided to do it virtually? So we said, sure. So we're creating really beautiful boxes that are going to be hand delivered to their top 50 donors that are going to, you know, they got like a liquor sponsor, all different snacks, all different goodies, no work involved for them. Each thing is going to have really gorgeous labels. They're going to make people smile. And when they open it, they'll feel like they're receiving a gift, and they'll also hopefully be so happy about receiving this gift that they'll still give the money that they gave before. And then we're also shipping, I think, what is it, Jeff? Maybe like 60 other packages that are a little, you know, smaller scale that doesn't have the liquid in it because we don't have any issues with shipping. that'll go to their, next level donors, just so that they can sort of put it out there, and they're flipping it. They're still going to have an auction. They still are going to have it all online. And I think it's really going to be the wave of what we're going to see over the next couple of months, because these nonprofits still have to raise money. And you know what? If we're working and we're providing food and we're doing stuff that can be simple, that isn't time temperature sensitive, it's a great option, right? I'm excited for them.
One other thing, just to add to that too, as just a new revenue stream for some caterers, a friend of ours who's a caterer out in Long Island, Andrea Coriali with Elegant Affairs, she's doing a online grocery store, and she's decided to contact all her vendors, and she created in 2 days a Shopify page with maybe 100 plus ingredient, grocery items, and she's been selling groceries and delivering them where people just don't feel comfortable, like really staples. And she said it's done really well. She's been running some really a lot of good orders through it. So she said it's actually busier than her food delivery service right now. So, like you said, Natalie, it's all about, you find something new in your business. Maybe that becomes your new normal.
I love that. And I love that people are starting to say, don't fear technology, see creative ways you can use this virtual platform. Who would have thought that we'd be able to use a virtual platform or live stream or Zoom to have regular meetings, conferences, charity events? I think that's awesome. And I think when people start realizing that, hey, it's not as scary as we thought it was. It's a lot easier than we thought. I think that's when we can really create some magical moments that we didn't think we could without the physicalness of certain things too. Cool. That being said, let's move on to the next question. I love the creative ways that people are thinking. Again, these are all creatives in this panel and people watching. So be creative, think outside of the box, make sure you're trying to move forward with that. This comes up every time in all of our panelists, but things have changed every week. So I do want to mention it again from the contract standpoint. I know people are asking a lot of questions around contract tips. So the question is, what are some contract tips to help vendors and clients too? So we want to protect the client and we want to make sure we're protecting ourselves, the vendor. How can we protect each other as we're planning to move forward with this? And I know that a couple of you have some different ways that you've done. You've probably done some different clauses. Have you all on the panel, has anyone on the panel done a change to your contract based on this? Or what are you thinking for contract tips moving forward? All right, Jeffrey.
So basically with any of our existing clients, yeah, exactly. Any of our existing clients that are booked with us, if they are moving forward and changing dates, we are honoring a change of date and move without any cancellation or additional fees. We're just holding the business and doing our best to try and maintain the client without them having any sort of ill will feelings, of like, I can't believe they did that to us. And really just honoring, our contract with them. In terms of new clients, if it's someone coming in the door and there are new clients, I just booked October 3rd, we booked a December, and I'm talking social now. We booked a few things and some nonprofits that are moving that were originally thinking this late spring, summer, who are moving to spring of next year. They are confirming now because I think people are starting to get some of these nonprofits a little bit nervous about dates. We are looking to have a more of a timelined payment schedule on our contract where we ask for a slightly larger deposit up front, but then a timelined amount over time, throughout the process versus, we used to just have a preliminary deposit and then a final payment, and now we're taking steps in between there. And we're also addressing the idea of what if you change dates again kind of question, because that's the worst thing is like you change it and then you have to change it again and then what? So that is becoming part of our new contract language.
Well, that's great. I think remaining flexible and really trying to get those rebooks is huge too. And I know, Stephen, I think you had something to add to that too as well.
Yeah, sure. I think the deposit thing is huge. That's what I was going to say. I mean, our terms and policies has been pretty solid. Thank goodness. But, and our clients have been very, very receptive. And, we've obviously been, work in progress with each client, but I think if anything that I've heard from my peers, especially, florists and other cake or bakers and some of them is their deposit schedule or even taking it. And I think if there's anything to learn from this is all this stuff, our CFO called this the Corona learning curve. And there's just so much that we can gain from this. So I think if no one goes back and changes their deposit schedule or their plan, like, you're crazy. You have to go back. I mean, we get scared to ask, like for our floor deposit, it's probably the lowest. It's like $400. And it's like, looking back at that, like what that decision was probably not a good idea, and like for $400, like that's not going to change anything for them. I mean, our catering is much different. We do have tiers, but even those we're going to ask for a larger percentage. So I think just adapting, I would say, for everyone in the industry, definitely go back and change your policies.
That's great. Thank you, Stephen. Natalie, I'll do a plug for you before you talk. Natalie has put some great resources together. We put the link in the chat earlier with Rising Tide and HoneyBook. They've put incredible addendums, different resources for building out your contract. But Natalie, I'll let you speak to that better.
Yeah, so I want to build on what Stephen said and add one more thing. So we're really experiencing right now, from my view, again, I'm kind of viewing this from a different angle. I'm not on the ground, boots on the ground, dealing with contract reschedules. I'm seeing tens of thousands processing through our system, might be hundreds of thousands at this point, and just different changes happening. And I'm seeing a couple things. One, I'm seeing the professionals, creative professionals that are being super proactive with communication, seeing the best outcome, period. So I want that to be really clear. If you are someone that has events that, are even looking to be May, June, July, and you're starting to wonder, should I be reaching out? I would encourage you to actually just start engaging in that calming and reassuring communication, reminding your clients that you are there to put them first, to serve them well, that you're there to support them, and even just alleviating some of their concerns. Because what we don't want to happen is for the client to panic and go straight to something like a credit card dispute. Remember, that is the last thing you want to happen, because then you're dealing with a bank and they normally will side in the favor of the client. And you do not want that to happen. So you really want to be in a place where you're being proactive and you're nurturing that relationship prior to even going to the legal language. And then to build on what Stephen said with legal language, a couple things just to keep in mind. First would be to update your act of God or force majeure clause in all contracts going forward. So you want to make sure that this clause is up to date, that it includes pandemic as one of the factors, and that you're just really clear in understanding what that language means and how, if there was an act of God where you were forbidden to go and do an event, how does that protect you? How does that protect the client? What is the scope and understanding of that going forward? That's important. Additionally, when it comes to these contracts, look, a big learning I think a lot of people have had around retainers specifically is that you need to be very clear about what that retainer is going to pay for. And what I mean by that is being really clear in the contract about, the retainer isn't just money you're holding and keeping from the client. We all know this. It goes towards onboarding the client, communications, planning. For some of us, it even involves ordering product, ordering food, ordering florals, those types of things, putting down reservations on certain aspects of an experience. And why that's important is because if you were to then go into some sort of dispute with a client later on and they said, I know it said refundable, but I'm going to the bank and I'm taking that money back from you anyway, or trying to challenge it, your contract, your legal language that you have will be very clear in outlining that that's not money you took from the client and we're holding for future service. That is money that has already been spent well with your business, that you've already delivered upon that money being received. Because I think sometimes we think that just by having something that says non-refundable, it fully protects of this, and living in a world where we get to experience some of these interactions going forward. It's just so important to leverage communication to your advantage, to be communicating with your clients proactively, and understanding that in that contract going forward, future contracts that you have should really be clear about what that retainer is going towards. And that when you say non-refundable, it's not because you're trying to steal it from the client in the future if something were to change. It's because it's already been spent in your business with time that employees have put into nurturing that relationship, onboarding that client, whatever else that looks like for your flow. Those are just a couple insights, but I think the biggest thing here, if I can just give like the tidbit of advice, it'd be communicate, over communicate. The last thing you want is that client to start panicking because they haven't heard from you. That's sort of like the place where things can start to go awry. And whenever possible, remember too that, right now, sometimes we're going to have to make decisions to protect the reputation of our businesses. And what I mean by that is a negative review today will go a long way 6 to 12 months from now when people say, how did this brand support their customers in a season of crisis? And I think we have an opportunity here, if we're willing to look at it as that, to come alongside these couples that are very afraid or very nervous or very anxious about their experience, and to be the reassuring brand that says, you know what, we're going to figure this out. You know, maybe I'll waive a little bit of the change fee that we would have had with something, or maybe I'm going to bend a little bit here or there, although it may not feel good in this moment. It could lead to a positive review that could yield us so much more business long term. So just some thoughts to kind of have generating. And I know it's from a different perspective. I know that, you know, it maybe I'm coming into this with like a little bit of a different glance at things, but that would be my recommendation. The communication, and then knowing that this could be a moment for you to shine, to go above and beyond, and to actually, we've seen this. We've seen a couple reviews like being populated right now for some of our members that have said things like, this, you know, caterer literally took care of everything, came alongside my business, ensured that, you know, I felt protected and taken care of. And they're writing positive reviews right now for business that hasn't even happened because they've had such a good experience with a vendor. And so I think there's an opportunity there too.
I love it. I love that there are still times for positive reviews in such a negative time that we're in. And it's really how we position ourselves to our clients. And I love that you said that. Anyone else on that topic? I have one more question that I wanted to ask everybody. One of the things that's huge on everyone's mind, obviously, is the future and what that looks like. We're going to be doing a webinar series coming up starting next week on bounce back and how you prepare for bounce back. But for our panel specifically, what are some thoughts on what businesses can do right now to prepare for that bounce back and even stay intact, whether it's from marketing and operations? We already talked about contracts, but like, what are different ways, maybe sales processes, that people can go ahead and prepare now for what's going to happen in the future? Sarah, let's start with you, and then we'll go to Stephen.
Organization is going to be so key during this time, because once we do start to get to that bounce back stage, there is going to be so many moving parts. We're probably going to be handling double the amount of events that we normally would have been. So it's going to be really important that we have all of our ducks lined up, all of our recipes and our items and our contracts, everything, so it's as automated as possible. That way, once we start moving, especially for those of us, you know, I think only florists, of course, those of us in the tactile world, where it's going to go from, okay, we're running our business and doing the behind the scenes now, but then when everything starts to ramp up, then we're physically creating and making and producing. So we have to make sure we can get as much as we can done and organized now. That way it's running smoothly when we can't be at our computer for as long. And I think the other thing to focus on is marketing. There's so many people that are afraid about marketing and advertising right now. And it is so important we don't forget to market. And someone taught me years ago the best piece of advice. I don't remember who it was, but they said, when you're nervous and your business is the slowest, that's the time you should be investing the most in your advertising. And I think that's really, really important. I've always stuck by that, because we often get busy and we forget to market. We forget to advertise. We're like, oh, look at, we're great. All these sales are coming in. And we are not pushing our marketing at that time because we're so busy. So I know that's going to happen with our industry, and it's going to happen with a lot of wedding professionals and event professionals, of course. When this starts happening, when it starts to pick up, they're going to forget to push on that marketing. So do as much of it as you can right now.
Love that. Stephen, did you want to add to that?
Sure. I completely second the marketing. I actually was hired during the recession, and I feel like everyone was getting rid of their marketing, and we actually built a marketing department. And the past 11 years has been the biggest growth of our 32-year business. So, I mean, diversify and market is huge. I think just this, not specific, but I think everywhere I read and everybody says over and over again, just this simple: what you do during this pandemic and how you react to it is how your customers are going to think about your business moving forward. How you treat your employees, how you message, and how you treat your customers. I think you nailed it, Natalie, of just, you know, biting the bullet for some of those things, because the return is going to be so much better. So I think it's what you're doing now with your messaging and your reaction is what's going to affect the future. So I think we can focus on specifics and processes and those types of things, but I think it's reaction right now. And I think it's easy to forget. And even I find myself, I mean, this is a scary time. We're all going through a lot, and I think it's okay to be vulnerable, but sometimes, you do want to hide, and sometimes maybe you don't want to share as much communication or messaging to your team because you're scared. And I think that's where you got to fight through it. And I think that's truly what's going to have that survival and that bounce back for businesses.
I love that. And I think it's so important. To Sarah's point, I couldn't agree more as far as just that marketing aspect. And if people are feeling like, hey, maybe I should market right now, that means other people are feeling it too. And then when people are looking for solutions, how many people are actually going to be out there marketing? If you're one of the only people that's marketing, you're going to be seen, compared to everybody else that's too scared to market. So I think it's super important, wise words from both Sarah and Steven, as far as like, hey, this is the time where you do want to invest some time in marketing. Make sure you know your marketing. Maybe you can't from a financial standpoint, but maybe you want to learn marketing techniques and things like that as well. We're going to be starting off with marketing in our bounce back session of like, hey, what are basics for really reaching out to your client and really making sure marketing is kind of the top of your mind too. So no, that's great. Anyone else as far as Natalie? Oh, Natalie, and then we'll go to Robin and then Jeffrey.
I'll make mine really quick. I think the marketing angle too, look, this is a chance to get creative with marketing in a way that maybe you've never done before. And I love when Steven said he's going to be doing Instagram lives. I have seen Sarah showing up constantly on video. This could be the chance where maybe you even look at marketing in a different way. If you don't have the financial funds to put into traditional advertising or paid channels, my God, get into the organic channels. Get on, and start doing video tutorials, demos, come up with something creative and maybe market through value, market through inspiring people during this time. I can say I'm following new DJs I was never following because they're DJing live and they're going on to just bring joy to people. Look at Sarah dancing here. I told her to get a TikTok channel. Now you got to hold her accountable to that. So this could be the chance in the moment where maybe your business even explodes in awareness and in your platform growth, simply by showing up to serve. And that would be my recommendation for marketing in this kind of sensitive time, would be show up to serve.
Yeah, I mean, I had one other point that really wasn't as much about marketing. It was also just getting back to your team. And, as leaders, I think it's really important to lead with a lot of integrity and try to stay strong, but also to show your vulnerability and to be transparent with your team. Because for those of them that are furloughed or laid off, we're just praying that they're going to be a part of our team at the end of this, and giving that positive messaging and whatever the messaging is, in fact, that you have to share with them so that they feel like they're still there and that you care about them, even though they're not under the roof in the building potentially. I think that's really important, and we're really trying very hard to keep in touch weekly with our team so that they know what's happening for those that aren't there, and also to check in every day with the ones that are there. Because as Steve said, it's really scary. I mean, we are doing and practicing the social distancing and wearing our masks and our gloves and all of that in the kitchen, but it's still putting them at risk. I mean, at the end of the day. So.
Lisa left a comment here I'd love to kind of jump on. She said everything she's hearing is don't be salesy through social media at this time. Don't be salesy with your marketing at this time. And I just want to flag something. I sent a very sassy tweet shortly after this all started happening. And I said, don't hate on small business for marketing right now. They're trying to keep the lights on. They're trying to keep employees paid. They're trying to do whatever they can to stay afloat. And I think that the biggest recommendation I'd have here, Lisa, because we were kind of just touching on this, is, first of all, do not be afraid to market. You have to keep the lights on. And if people don't understand that, I think that's something that we need to warm up the consumers to. The reality of is accepting and celebrating our marketing right now is supporting small business. When you can't hire an amazing caterer to come do, perhaps your wedding next weekend, you can still like their posts on social media, comment on their posts, buy a gift card, or leverage what they're doing. And I think it's all about delivery, and that's where the value providing maybe comes in. But I just want to affirm anyone listening to this, do not be afraid to market right now. If that is a fear, I want to eliminate it. And if people are hating, send them to me. Okay? Just send me a DM.
And I just want to second exactly what you said. That's all.
I would add to that also, Natalie, that I think that, with regards to, sort of not over marketing. You know, you should, if you're sincere and genuine about what you're doing and what you're saying to your clients, I think it's a lot of times, like even now, like if I get an order, I've never been so excited about a $200 order for, you know, dinner for four. But if you remind your clients and the people that you're selling to the importance of that order and how it's keeping someone working, there's nothing sales about that. That's just real feelings and genuine like appreciation. If you remind clients of that, they'll even be that much more interested in wanting to do it again and again. And there's nothing salesy about that. That's just real life, what's going on, and appreciation. So I think that's something to consider. Also, Ben, with regards to how do we move forward and bounce back, I think a lot of the messaging that we're trying to put forth to our clients is even though everyone's in a world of what unknown and everyone's crystal balls are broken, I think, you know, it's kind of any messaging of positivity, any messaging of we're moving forward, we're postponing, we're not canceling, but we're moving ourselves forward, we're staying strong, and we've got something on the horizon coming. I think that's kind of the messaging that we're looking to try and promote out there to everybody. So again, I think, it's easy to say that, but if you don't and you sort of have a gloom and doom attitude, it's just going to hurt you.
Oh, I love that, and I love the echoings in the little room that we're in right now of, you know, like still marketing and still making sure you're putting yourself out there, because new inquiries are coming in. Like people are planning for their events 6 months, 8 months down the road. Like people are still thinking about the future, even though today and maybe next month look a little bit shaky. One of the questions that came in, we'll kind of transition into the Q&A from our audience that we've gotten since we've been on. So keep chatting in here. We'll get to as many questions as we can. But to that point of handling new inquiries and things like that, someone asked, do you have suggestions to new inquiries, like let's say a bride? They said they're mainly concerned about booking dates when they don't know when this will end. Person says, I'm a florist, so I'm worried about the timing and flower sourcing. How are people handling new inquiries that are coming in right now with kind of dealing with that unknown, but still preparing for the future with new inquiries? I'll let Sarah take that one.
I can say, so I'm not currently designing weddings for temporarily, not forever, but I'm currently not designing weddings. So I'm in a little bit different boat. But what my best suggestion would be for the new inquiries coming in, especially when it's floral related, is communicating with the clients that there just needs to be a little bit more flexibility right now. Maybe not wording it like, you know, you have to be more flexible, but wording it as we can absolutely still create your wedding and make it beautiful. We're going to be creative with the selection of flowers and with the farms that we source from to make sure that your wedding is beautiful. And keep it a little bit, I don't want to say vague, but a little bit more casual, so that it opens you up for the ability of doing what you do best, which is being creative to source the items you're going to need. Because I'm sure in the food industry, it's similar to the floral industry. Sometimes you can't get that exact thing, but you can get a great substitute or a great variation to make the event come together. So I think it goes back to what Natalie had said earlier. It's just about communicating to these inquiries. And as far as when to schedule, I know for things within the Intrigue family, we aren't scheduling anything new until the fall, just to be on the safe side. We have in July, rather, we have our Alaska Peony Adventure, which will most likely be a small group. I believe there's 6 of us going to Alaska in July. I'm hoping we can all go. But other than that, like, we are just trying to make sure we focus on having the best fall that we can and pushing everything off to that time frame.
Love that. Robin, did you want to add?
Yeah, I just think, speaking to what you were saying, Sarah, you know, about seasonality and such, I think that people hire all of our companies based on the fact that we have great reputations, or they've tasted our food, or they've seen your flowers, and they trust in the integrity of our business and also in the creativity of what we do. And so for many clients and couples, you know, on the wedding front that have had their tastings already, that have their dates booked, that are now having to push their dates, encouraging them to trust us and say, listen, we're going to go seasonally with what happens. If we have to change your summer wedding to a fall wedding, you're still going to have that great short rib that you tasted and loved. We're going to flip it and find seasonal things that are going to change up possibly the sides or whatever. It's still going to be a great experience. You want to just encourage them that what they dreamt of and the flower that they hoped for is still beautiful. It may not just be the same thing. It's you being positive, I think, and putting that out to the universe and to them is probably what's going to make them feel comfortable and okay with that.
Yeah, I love that. And you all know this on the panel, but I'll reiterate kind of what everyone knows that's joining too. You are the professional in the situation. You are the expert, and you are the one that's going to be guiding them through this time. Before COVID happened, we were guiding our clients anyways, but now that COVID's here, it's a little bit dimmer, but you still have a flashlight and you still know how to guide them a little bit. So never take 2 steps back just because you're like, oh, I don't really know how to guide. You are the guide, you're the professional here, and your reputation is guiding them through the experience and creating that magical moment. To Sarah's point, creating substitutions if you need to, having that casual conversation around exactly what's going to be delivered. You're the professional. Feel free to be confident in that, to know that you are the reason why they're coming to you in the end. I'll do one more question, maybe 2. We'll squeak another one in there. Where do we think the hospitality, I know this is probably a lot of stipulation, a lot of probably guessing at this point, but as far as the hospitality industry, the question is, where do you think the hospitality industry goes from here? When do you think the industry will even start getting back on track? On track is probably a vague term. It could mean things to different people, but what about the hospitality industry? What do you think as far as like, where do we go from here? What can we do to make sure we still go forward? And when will that happen?
Can you define what you mean by the hospitality industry? Because it's very broad.
It is. Let's do wedding and event industry. We'll do that. So corporate events, weddings, things like that too. Like where do we go from here as an industry, and what does this look like in a month or 2?
I don't know I'm going to be the best one to start this, but I'm here. And I'm off mute. So I feel like once, we get right now we're not even supposed to be leaving our homes, but once we get the okay that we can go back out, I think it's going to be up to us in the industry to help encourage people out, to invite them out. I think we all need to throw events to get people excited again, because I think it's going to be strange, kind of like when you haven't seen a family member for a really long time and the hug just isn't as comfortable as it used to be, right? I think we are going to have to, if we want this industry to thrive again, we're going to have to give it a helping hand and help everyone celebrate. And I don't know where that goes, but that's just my thought.
Well, I want to build on that. I think Sarah's completely right. I think that, everyone's looking to us and everyone's afraid. And so in the same way that I look to my mentors in business to get their check on the weather, couples are going to look to wedding and events professionals to get a check on, well, when are people rescheduling and what are they doing and when are they planning their weddings, because they're afraid. So I think it really comes down to us as the leaders of this industry to instill a sense of hope. Everything will go back. It will be okay. To understand, though, as business owners, maybe more behind the scenes, that we might have to make these micro pivots. We might have to, maybe put on some, kind of like styled shoots to re-inspire people, to get them excited about the potential. We might have to create certain types of content to alleviate concerns and to create an understanding that, yes, events are being rescheduled, not canceled, which is something that we've been doing at HoneyBook. We're trying to say, reschedule, don't cancel. Like no one's canceling. We're all rescheduling. And when you think that's the social norm, people follow the social norm. So establishing those social precedents and really taking a step forward to be the leaders that we want to be. And I also think, look, people will always get married. That is a reality that we've seen. And, a lot of us actually started our businesses, or, even as Stephen was talking about the recession, flourished during really hard economic times in the past. So for those of you listening who maybe are newer in business or didn't experience the fallout of 2008, 2009, that's when I built my business. I think that there is also some really strong businesses within all of us that are going to emerge from this. I also think that there are going to be couples that are going to see this. And I really believe there could be stories here when I think of like the marketing of all of it, of understanding the value of our time, the preciousness of our lives, and that if there's somebody you love, for God's sakes, go marry them and throw a big party and hire everyone who's on the call. Like, I think we can use these experiences to bring hope to humanity, to bring hope to our clients, and also to remind them that we're in the business we do some of the most beautiful work that there is to be done in the world. We bring people together around love. Like, we need more of that in these seasons. And so once we survive this, we get through this as an industry and we're on the other side, I want to instill a sense of hope that it's not just going to be back to normal. It's going to be better than normal. You know, there's going to be this incredible longing that we've had for these events, a longing to get together, a longing for relationships that have been, you know, kind of going along for a long time. Now COVID happens and you're like, you know what? I've wanted to marry you for 4 years. I think it's time. You know, life is short. Let's do it. So I think there's going to be some really beautiful things to come out of this. I think though, as leaders, we have to be the ones to champion that, to encourage that, and to set the social standard that this is what it's going to be, to give that hope forward.
All right. Has anyone noticed the rush of shiny engagement rings on Facebook? There has been more engagements pop up on my personal feed than I can ever remember, even in like peak engagement season. I don't know if anyone's talking about it, but there are lots of weddings that are getting ready to happen because people are together or they're apart during this time and they don't want to be apart.
And babies to be born, just saying.
I
stock in anything related to an increase in population boom. I mean, I have to wait for IVF to be restarted, so I've got a little bit longer. They're saying a couple months, there'll be 2 waves, everyone. The quarantine wave and then all the fertility babies that'll start again in June and July. Just calling it now.
I love it. And they need food and flowers as well too for those events. And I love what you guys are saying. Sarah started it off too, and Natalie added to it about, you know, once people start doing it, everyone does it. I'm thinking like high school dance or like the dance for the wedding. Like every time that happens, it's just that one person that goes out there and it's like, okay, like let's see how this dance floor is. And then 10 minutes later, everyone's out there. I think we set the pace, and I think the professionals in the industry really do. So I encourage everyone, if you're listening, you set the pace. Anything else from our panel? Robin, Jeffrey, Steve, on that specifically?
I just think, you know, one thing I hope, and I know that this industry will do, and I think when we talk about hospitality, is I've never seen a group come together and become so, like, I'm in business groups and there's so many other industries on that group. And when I talk about all the things that the catering and the event and the design industry and wedding industry is sharing with each other and how open and vulnerable that we are, like, if we keep going with this, we will only continue to pave the path for the future. And I think Robin said we are the magic makers. My boss says we're the combat trained piece of gum and matchstick in the middle of a field. You know, we built this industry built new and innovative things, and I think we only will continue to do that. So we just have to stand together.
I love it. Well, that's our time. It's 3:02. Sarah, did you want to add real quick?
I just wanted to second that again. That's all.
Sarah's over there in the amen corner. She's like, yep, that's it. With all the hands come up. Thank you everyone for joining. It's 3:02. We'll let you get back to your days and to your weekends coming up. But thank you everyone for joining. And thanks to our panelists, sincerely, everyone. We want to make sure you are following them, find them on social. We've been tagging them, we'll tag them again. And then this is going to be recorded as well. So you'll have access to this. So anyone that registered for this will have it. We'll send it out to everybody so you get that. So thank you from me and Curate. We're going to be doing some bounce back things, kind of moving forward and kind of getting back out on the dance floor to say, hey, what does this look like? How do we dance for when the time comes? We're going to start doing that. So anything else from the panelists?
Thank you for having us and for coordinating this.
Yeah, thank you so much.
It's our pleasure. And thanks everyone for joining. I really appreciate it. And thank you everyone that joined too from chat and asking questions. So everyone have a great weekend and we'll see you next time.
Take care.
Bye.